students, how are you all? So welcome back to the class. So as I have told you already that we have completed some part of this chapter, and now we are going to start with the another part of this chapter. That is, we can see that how we are producing the silk from silkworm, and how we are producing wool from sheep. So that's how students we are going to look at this in this part of this chapter. Okay. So what the thing is, like in the last session, what we have discussed what is the fiber. We have discussed this thing that what are the types of fibers, and then we have seen that these are the natural fibers and synthetic fiber, and then natural fibers has been classified as plant fibers and the animal fibers. Exactly. Do you remember all of these things? Very good. So now, students, what we are going to do is now we are going to start the another part of this chapter. That is the, you can see that these are the topics which we are going to cover today. Again, you will say, ma'am, so many topics are here, but don't worry, I am with you. So we are going to do each and everything very well. So these are the topic, students, which we are going to done today. That's the process fibers into the wool, shearing process, scurrying process. See, these are the very simple things. We have already done that, so we don't have to take much time. But yes, we'll see that what are these sorting, then remaining steps of this process, discovery of silk. Now this is important. Okay, from here the important part is here that we have to start today. Okay, then sericulture, life history of silk moth from cocoon to silk, and rearing silkworm. So all these are the topics which we are going to study today. Okay, that means we are going to find out that how the fibers is converted into wool, and how the silk, that how we are getting the silk. Okay, it will be an interesting thing. So just watch this video with the great attention. So first thing, that is the processing fibers into wool. If you remember that in the last session we have talked about the production of the wool. So the wool we are getting from where? So the wool we are getting from sheep, and from what? From what part of the sheep we are getting the wool? It is the fleece or the hair of the sheep, from where we take that part, and then we do the process, and that's how the wool is produced. So see, now there the thing is that, student, that the sheep hair has two types of fiber, the beard hair and the skin hair. If you remember that in the last session also, I have already told you that we got the soft hair near the skin. So these are, you can say that these are the soft hair part. And if we talk about beard hair, so if you notice that beard hair are always tough kind of material. So you can say that they are tough hair, or they are like rough hair. You can say tough or rough. So tough, rough. Fine. So these are the kind of hair, student, with the sheep. All the sheeps are having. Okay. Now the skin here, which we are like, which is provided for us, so that so that we can make the wool from the fibers. So this is the process. See, this is the process which we use to find out the fibers into the wool. Okay. So first of all, what we have seen that there are sheep from where we get the wool, and from what part, that is the hair and the fleece. But that hair are also of two types. One is the skin hair, that you can say the hair which are just present near to the skin or skin layer. We call them as the skin hair, and they are somewhat soft in nature. Whereas the beard hair, they are the, you can say, the upper part of the upper part. So that are the tough, or kind, or you can say the kind of rough hair they are. So that's how we have find out that two types of hair there. Okay. Now this is a series of process which we use to find out, or we can say to make the wool from the fiber. Okay. So it's like shearing, then scurrying, then sorting, dyeing, straightening, rolling, and combing. See, student, it is very easy. Like if you remember what's the shearing is, shearing in which we just remove the hair part, we just remove the fleece part of the sheep. Exactly. Scurrying is, then what we'll do, scurrying is the removing of the dirt particle, unwanted particle from the hair of the sheep. Exactly. After that, students, sorting, like then after that we are getting the different type of fiber, like the texture we can say. Then we sort them, we find out that whatever there will be a good stuff, we just find it out, and we just separate the another part. After that we dye. Like dye means if it is of the color white, but we want the wool of the yellow color, so we just dye them. After that, straightening will be done. rolling will be done, and combing will be done. So that's how we done that we produce the perfect kind of fiber from that, and then we convert the fiber into yarn, then yarn to fabric, and that's how we get the wool fabric, and that's how we produce the woolen clothes. So this is the whole process. Now we have to see this whole process very effectively, so that you can get the whole idea about the production of the wool. Okay, so first of all, it's the shearing. So students, like I have already told you what is the shearing is. So the sheep shearing is the process by which the woolen fleece of the sheep is cut off. I told you, just ignore if sheep or is pronounced, sometimes it is sheep only, because we are not talking about ship here, we are just talking about sheep. So just focus over that part. So shearing is the cutting off or of the, you can say, the hair or the fleece part of the sheep. We call it as the shearing process. Okay, so student, what I have done is that I'm having one video so that we can understand all of these things by looking at that video. Okay, so just ready to see that video.
Processing fiber into wool. We cannot use fibers obtained from sheep directly for making sweaters, shawls, and many other things. Instead, these are processed in stepwise manner. Here, in this lesson, we will learn how fibers are processed into wool. The first step is shearing. The layer of hairs around the sheep body is called fleece. Shearing is the process of removing fleece and the thin layer of skin from the sheep body.
So student, have you seen in this video like what she is telling, like directly we can't use the fleece part or the hair part of the sheep to convert them into the woolen clothes or into the, what we can say, to the making of the sweaters, shawls and everything. So we have to process something, like we have to follow some process so that we can get the good stuff and then we can convert it into it. So first of all, the first step is the shearing process, and in the shearing process what is done, that we have to first of all remove the fleece part or the hair part from the body of the sheep. So that is called as the shearing process. Okay.
For this process, tools similar to those used by barbers are used. The outer skin of animal body is dead, so shearing does not harm the sheep. However, this process must be done during hot weather. The reason is simple. If shearing is done in winter, then the cold climate could harm the sheep, since the protective layer is not present. However, in hot weather, they can remain safe even if there is no protective layer. After shearing, the skin rebuilds in some days and the hair starts growing again. Shearing provides fibers.
So students, like you have seen that we are getting the flea, and that is the fleece part from the body of the sheep, and it's just that we remove the upper part, and it would not hurt the sheep because that upper part is the, you can say, that is the dead one. If you have seen that your father, when they are shaving, so what you have seen, that they are just using some of the tools so that they can shave it, but it will not harm them because they are just removing the upper part of it. So that's why it would not harm them. So similarly, that removing of the hair from the body of the sheep, it will also not harm them. It's just that we use the similar tools. And as I've told you already, and you have seen in this video also, that always this process is done in the case of the in summer seasons. Because what happened in the winter season, if we just start removing the hair in the winter season, so the upper layer is not there, and they will not protect themselves from the winter season. So never do that thing, that we are getting the wool or we are taking the wool from the sheep in the case of the winter season. Because in summer season, what is the condition, that it is the temperature is high, there is hot weather, so they can survive by, and like by when they are not having their hair over their bodies. So that's how the shearing process is always done in the case of the winter season. Now from that shearing process, what we are getting the fiber, that is the wool fiber. Now what we'll do further, so look at here.
After shearing, the next step is scouring. The hairs that is fibers obtained from shearing, contains dirt such as grease and dust. It must be removed before further processing. Thus, the sheared skin along with hairs is washed thoroughly to remove dirt. It is called scouring. It is done by hand or by machines. It is then dried and sent to factory. Scouring provides clean fibers.
So now after the shearing, the second step is the scurrying. In the scurrying, what we do, students, that the fiber which we are getting from the sheaves, it is also having some unwanted particles. You can say dirt particles are there or any other thing which is there. So what we can do, we can just remove them by washing it. So the cleaning of the wool fiber, you can say it is the scurrying process, and it can be done by using the machines and as well as your hands. Okay, so that's how first is the shearing process, then second is the scurrying. Now, what's the third is?
After scouring, the next step is sorting. In this step, the clean fibers are taken to factory where they are separated according to the texture such as length and color.
So the third step is the sorting step. Now after when we get the clean wool, so what we do, that we just separate out the text like the fiber from that. The fiber which are having the same texture, we just separate them on the basis of their length or on the basis of their color or any other factor we can include here. So on the basis of those factors, we separate out the fibers from each other so that we can get the different type of fibers, and we can form them into the fabric.
The fine hairs are used to make cloths, while coarse hairs are used to make rugs. There are small fluffy fibers called burrs present in the fleece. These are removed and used as burrs on sweaters.
So now student, have you seen that the fine fiber which we are getting from it, so we use them for the formation of the clothes. Then the rough one we just use to make any other type of the cloth which we don't generally wear it. Okay. And the very small part, that the small fluffy fibers that we call them as the burrs, we use them in the case of the jackets. Like you have seen that we are having the fur in our collars or inside our jackets. So that's the burr only. So that's how student, first is the shearing, then it is scurrying, then it is sorting. After sorting, what is done?
The next step in processing wool is dyeing. The fibers are dyed, that is, colored according to need. Since fibers are white, brown, or black naturally, therefore, other colors are used for dyeing. After dyeing, fibers are straightened, combed, and rolled into yarn. This is how a woolen yarn is obtained.
See students, now that the after sorting, there is the dyeing process. See, generally the sheeps which we are having, either they are having black color fur or the brown or the white, but you have seen that we are wearing the different color of woolen clothes. Yellow is also there, red is also there, blue is also there. Like if I ask you, do you have any blue colored jackets? So obviously blue, black, every color of jackets, sweaters are there. So how we are getting them? By dyeing that fur, that is the white, brown and black, we dye them so that we get the different color of it. Okay. And then we straighten them because they are wavy in nature, as we have seen initially also. They are wavy in nature, and after straightening them, then we comb them and then we roll, and after that we get the yarn, and from the yarn we get the fabric of the wool, and that's how we can use them in a production part. So student, that you can see, this is the whole process for the conversion of the fiber into the wool, so that we can use that wool for the production of our clothes. Exactly student. So now scurrying is here, that you can see scurrying is done to remove the grease part, dust and dirt from the raw sheet wool. And you can see that the fleece are washed with the soaps, detergents or any other materials also, so that we can find out very good material from them. And even though if they are having any type of the dirt, so that it can be removed easily. And after scurrying, what we do, that's the sorting process, we just sort them. You can see here shearing is done, then scurrying in tanks, and after then you can see scurrying by machines as well, and rolling into yarn. sorting is here. Then we sort the different texture of the fibers so that we get the good quality of the wool. So in sorting, what we do generally in the factory, where it is broken and separated into the sections, and we get the quality fiber. And the process of separating, see student, this is the process sorting, which we call the separation of the good quality wool from the another type of the wool. We call it as the sorting process, as we have done already. Okay, now after sorting, there are the two steps, that is the cleaning of burrs. That means the burrs which we have seen, like the small fluffy part, we just remove them, and then we dye is there. Exactly. So all these are the steps which are included in the case of the production of the wool fiber. So it's just that the steps are, the first is the shearing, that the removal of, removal of the hair or the fleece from the body part of the sheep. Then it is scurrying, students. That scurrying is like a removing of the dirt particle from them. Then it is the sorting. Then we just sort out the good quality wool from the other type of the structure. After sorting, we just do dyeing process so that we get the different color of the woolen clothes. After the dyeing process, students, what we do, it's just that we after dyeing, it's just that we just find it out that shearing, scurrying, sorting and dyeing, and after that we just straighten them. Okay. Actually, sometimes it happened, like I have already teach you, but just when we just revising, it just missed from the part. But like within a second, I just reminded that okay, after that we do straightening, and then what else? Then we combine them, roll them, and after that we get the yarn from it, and from yarn then fabric, and then woolen clothes. So that's our student. This is the whole process which we follow. So straighten, then combine. You can do combine and then roll them, so that what we are getting, we are converting into the yarn wool, and from the yarn wool we get the woolen fabric, and from that woolen fabric, students, what you can do, you can make your different type of clothes, which we generally don't make on ourselves. It's just that we get from the textile industries, and they just pass it to stores and shops, and we just buy through that. Exactly. So this is the whole process of the wool. Now, after the wool, the second animal fiber which we are going to study is silk. So now it's the discovery of silk, that how the silk has been discovered first of all. Exactly, like first of all we should know now that how the discovery has been done. So for that we just see one video, and after that we'll come to another part of it. Okay, so just look at that video.
Silk is one of the most prized fabrics in the world. Most people love to wear silk apparels on special and auspicious occasions.
See, students, silk is one of those fiber which everyone likes it, like on our occasions, like whether it is wedding occasion or whether it is any festival occasion. So we generally used to wear silk clothes because they look very nice, they're shiny, they are very soft in texture, they are just wow kind of thing. So it's a, you can say that the silk is one of the choice of every person, like which I can say, like mostly, no, I can't say all, but mostly. Okay.
Silk is obtained from silkworms, which are cultured on commercial scale to obtain silk. But have you ever wondered that how this fiber was discovered 5,000 years back by the mankind? According to an old Chinese legend, silk was discovered by a Chinese empress. She found some white worms eating up the leaves of the mulberry trees in her garden. She noticed that worms were spinning shiny cocoons around them. She collected some of those cocoons. Accidentally, one of the cocoons chopped into her cup of tea. She noticed that the cocoon was actually made from a long thread that was both strong and soft. In this way, the fiber of silk was discovered, but Chinese guarded the secret of silk for over 1,000 years. Afterwards, traders and travelers introduced silk to various parts of the world. Silk was introduced in India about 1900 years ago. The story of its introduction is related to a Chinese princess who married an Indian prince. She was very fond of silk fabric and therefore she brought silkworm eggs to India in her headdress and fed them with the leaves of Indian mulberry trees, initiating the silk production in India. Currently, world's production of silk is estimated to be around 1,25,000 metric tons per year. China holds top position with production of about 80% of the world's silk. India is also a leading producer, accounting for 10% of the world production. India is the world's second largest producer and consumer of silk and its products.
See, students, silk in India, silk is very famous in India, even though most of the southern people, which I have heard, that they are just fond of the silk. Like silk sarees are very very famous, even though they are very costly, but they are very famous because silk is that kind only. Like you can see, silk is very soft, very shiny. So this is the discovery of the silk, that one of the time the Chinese emperor, like Chinese princess was there, and she find it out that the silkworms are feeding over the mulberry leaves and they are forming some kind of net around them. And when she find it out that net are having some kind of thread like structure, and that thread like structure are soft and as well as the strong, so that's how she got the idea that from that they can convert it into the fabric and they can produce the silk clothes, because silk clothes can be very good, very soft, very shiny. So that's the discovery of the silk, students. Okay, so it's the Emperor Huang Ti found out that the white worms were eating up the mulberry leaves and spinning shiny cocoons. And we'll see that what are the cocoons and everything. It's just that you first of all what you have to learn that the silkworms, that the white worms they are talking about here, it is the silkworms only. Okay, so don't get confused that ma'am we are talking about silkworms and here it is the white worm. So they are eating up over the mulberry leaves and they are spinning the shiny cocoon. See what is the cocoon is, that the net which they are weaving around their cells. So that is called as the cocoon. And then cocoon accidentally dropped into the empress cup of hot tea and the delicate tangle of thread separated from the cocoon. And that's how that cocoon has been separated out, and that's lead the discovery of the silk. So that's how student discovery of the silk has been done. And after some time it has been, you can say, passed, like the information has been passed on to the every part of the world. And that's how today we are using the silk. And silk is one of the favorite fabric of people, and even the women's used to wear silk sarees because they are shiny in nature and they are very soft and everything is there, and it's just like that they are costly as well. Okay, so that's the discovery of the silk. Now students, it's the sericulture thing, that what is the sericulture. So silk fibers are also animal fibers. Silkworms spin the silk fibers, the rearing of the silkworm. Then like when we rear the silkworm, like for you, if you remember that for the wool we rear the sheep, so that's how the rearing of the silkworm, so that we can obtain the silk, that process is called as the sericulture. But again students, sericulture is also having some steps, like how we have to like rear the silkworm, because they are very tiny one, not like the sheep. So that's a student that we have to feed them over the mulberry leaves, because on the mulberry leaves what they do, they form the net around themselves, which is called as the cocoon, and then we remove that cocoon from that, and that's how the silk is produced. Okay, so for the sericulture students, I am again having one video, so I would like to show you that video. Okay, so look at here, just give me a minute so that I can show you.
Sericulture. In this module, you will learn about sericulture. Silk is a fabric with an attractive luster and drape called the.
Are you attracted to silk? Just tell me, like silk. So you can see it's the Queen of fibers. Oh my god.
Queen of fibers, it is used not only to make beautiful clothing, but also for upholstery and soft furnishings such as curtains, cushions, and wall coverings. Silk is produced naturally by larva of silk moth. The best variety of silk is obtained from the larva of the silk moth, Bombyx mori. The practice of rearing silkworms in captivity to produce silk on a large scale is called sericulture. Sericulture starts with laying of eggs by the silk moth. The adult yellowish-white female moth lays pinhead-sized, slightly yellowish eggs on a special paper set out by the silk farmer.
See, student, that is the sericulture. You can see that the even though the silkworm on the mulberry leaves they produce, that's the natural process. But when we have to produce the silk on a large scale, so we can't wait for the natural process. Okay, so that's why sericulture has been produced. And in that case, what the silk farmers do, that they take one paper on which, like, it's a different kind of paper on which the silk moth, that is you can say that the animal which we use for the production of silk, so that they lays the eggs, and that eggs are some yellowish in color, but they are very small. Okay.
The eggs are uniformly spread on egg frames and then covered with tissue paper and an outer frame. These frames are kept in an incubation chamber for about 20 days where they hatch due to the warmth. After 20 days, egg frames are taken out, kept on a tray, and opened. In these 20 days, eggs hatch into about half a centimeter long black larvae. These egg frames having larvae are then covered with fresh mulberry leaves by the silk farmer. The larvae then crawl out of the egg frames and feed on the mulberry leaves day and night for 4 to 6 weeks and grow into an adult larvae. After approximately 6 weeks, the adult larvae stop feeding. Farmers transfer these larvae to mountages. Each larva then produces a single continuous silken thread and wraps this thread around itself to form a protective case called a cocoon. The cocoon formation completes in 3 days. The larva first changes into a pupa and then into an adult silk moth which breaks the thread of the cocoon and comes out of it. Since the silk thread of the cocoons is damaged by the silk moth while coming out, silk farmers usually kill them by putting 10-day-old cocoons into hot water. The hot water also loosens the long silken threads of the cocoons. Loosened threads from several cocoons are then wound into yarns to make strong threads which are woven into cloth. In this module you have learned sericulture.
So see, students, like what they are doing in this process is that in the sericulture, that they are following their own process, but it is just similar to the natural process. We'll see all that thing, but looking at the video now, you are having some idea exactly that what first what they do, they just try that the silk moth, that you can say that the silkworm, or you can say that the parent of the silkworm, they just lay the eggs, and that eggs has been hatched for some time, so that they convert into the silkworm. Okay, and that is called as the larva. Now when this larva is transferred to the another, so on over the mulberry leaves, so they just grow and convert into the adult larva, and that adult larva start forming a net kind of sheet around itself, and then that net sheet has been used for the silk purpose. Exactly. So that's the sericulture process, student. So you can see that the rearing of the silkworm for obtaining the silk is called as the sericulture. Okay. Now this is the life history of the silk moth. Okay, which you are looking at in the video. Now you are having the clear idea about it. See, first of all, there is the silk moth. Okay, adult moth, you can say. This adult moth on the mulberry leaves lays the egg. Okay, when she lays the egg, so that eggs first of all convert into the larva. Fine. Then larva, what will do, that larva will convert into the pupa. Okay, this is called as the pupa. Okay. And you can see when there is the larva, or you can see that the larva or the caterpillar will feed over the mulberry leaves for the 3 to 4 weeks, and you can see then they start forming the cocoon around self. See that the net like of the structure of the threads which the larvas are forming around themselves, that is called as the cocoon. Okay. And after some time inside that cocoon there is the development of this larva and they convert into the pupa. And after some time when this pupa will you can say developed and convert into the silk moth, so they will just move out from that shell, and that's how you can see that the thread like structure will left behind and the silk moth will get come out, and again that silk moth will lays the egg, and that's how the life cycle of the silk moth goes on. Okay. So what we have seen till now, that the life cycle of the silk moth starts when a female silk moth lays the egg. First of all, the caterpillar or the larva, these two are the same thing, are hatched from the eggs of the silk moth. See what that when the silk moth is laying the eggs over the mulberry leaves, so what happened that now these eggs has been hatched by the female moth, silk moth only, and after the hatching what we are getting the larva and the caterpillar. So now when we are having these caterpillar, these are the silkworms which feed on the mulberry leaves and give rise to the pupa, and that these larvas, these are the larvas, they just convert into the pupa. This is pupa, and they just weave a netted kind of structure around themselves, and that is called as the cocoon. And again when the pupa has been developed, so pupa converted into the silk moth and it will get come out from that net like structure, and that's how the thread part will left behind, and there is the silk moth again. So silk moth again lays the egg and again the process will repeat it. So this is the life cycle, or you can say the life tree of the silk moth. Okay. And from that part, like whenever this process, this is the natural process, but when we are doing the sericulture, so what will happen that the when the silk moth comes out from it na, so what will happen, they just destroy that net like structure which is having the thread of the silk. So what they do, they just heat or they just boil them into the hot water, so that what will happen that the adult moth will get die, which is I find a very bad for her, dye, and after that they get the silk and that they convert into the yarn, and that's how the processes goes on. But in the natural process they don't get dye, they just flew out from that structure, from that net kind of structure, and that's how we get the threads of the silk. Fine. Now moving towards from cocoon to silk. So we can see the picture only here, students. Like you can see that there is the moth pairing. Okay, now first of all moth pairing is done, then they lays the egg. After the leg, when the eggs are laid, so what happened that the hatching is done, hatching process is done here. After the hatching process, students, what happened that there is the formation of the young larva within the 10 days. After the young larva, there is the late age worms, which we also call them as the silkworms. Okay, silkworms. After the silkworm, students, they start forming the cocoons around themselves. That is the cocoons on mountage, and then there is the complete formation of the cocoon. And these cocoons are used for the silk production, as you can see here. This is the silk production. And from that, and inside that cocoon, see, and you can see at this position you can find out the pupa will be there. And after the pupa development in these type of big size of the cocoon, there will be the silk moth, and it will get flew out, and that's how 10 to 12 days, and again the pairing will done, and again the legs will you will find out the eggs, and that's how the process will repeating, and that's how we get the silk from the cocoon. Okay. So now you can see here that for obtaining silk, moths are reared and their cocoons are called to get silk threads. Rearing silkworm. A female silkworm can lay hundred of eggs at a time. The eggs are stored carefully on the strips of clothes or the paper and sold to silkworm farmer. Okay, then eggs are sold to the silkworm farmer and they just start processing it. And the process is called as the sericulture. Exactly. So the pile of the cocoon is used for obtaining the silk fibers. The process of taking, you can see here, taking out the threads from cocoon for use as silk is called reeling the silk. Like when we take out the threads from the cocoon so that we can obtain the silk fiber, then we call it as the reeling the silk. Fine. So all of these are the steps to involved in this, and this is the complete cycle. Like it is not, you can see that it is not never ending, but when we talk about the cocoons which are used which are boiled in the water by the silkworm farmer, so at that point silk moth will get die, but eventually we are having silk moth in our nature, so that we are getting the silk again and again. Okay students, so that's how this whole process done, that first of all moth will paired up, and after that eggs are there. Eggs are like, then the hatching process is done, then you get the young larva which are of the small size, then they grow up by eating the mulberry leaves, so that we are getting the large silkworm. That large silkworms start forming the cocoon, like the net structure around themselves. Inside that structure there is the pupa. After the development, when there is a complete cocoon, there will be the silk moth, and after some time that silk moth will try to fly out into the atmosphere, and that cocoon will get breakdown, and from that you get the silk. Okay, but if the silk moth is coming out of it, so that cocoon will get damaged. So in the sericulture process, what the silk farmer do, that they just boil that cocoon into the water for some time, like for 5 to 6 days or more than that, and then they get the silk. Because of that, what will happen, that the silk moth will get die. So this is how we obtain the silk from the cocoon, and this is the whole process of the production of silk. I hope it's a very interesting thing, and all of you like got all of these things about this conversion of the cocoon to silk. Now rearing of silkworm, it is again a same students, like bringing up and raising, taking care of the animals so that we can rear them, so that we can get the we can get the silk thread from them. Exactly student, have you seen that whenever like first of all there is the small larva, and see small larva and caterpillar is the same thing, and when they grow to the big larva, so what we'll do, that the farmers will transfer them to the mulberry leaves. Okay, so that they just eat the mulberry leaves, even though at this condition they just transfer them, and they start eating this mulberry leaves, and by eating the mulberry leaves, so what will happen student. Okay, mulberry leaves. So, so what happens, student, that these big larvas or the silkworm, they just start forming the net-like structure around them, which we call them as the cocoon. And from that cocoon, we get the silk. So that's the rearing of the silkworm. As I've already told you, that the keeping and the maintaining of the animal, so that we get the desired product from them, we call that as the rearing process. So this is the rearing of the silkworm. I hope you understand that how we are producing wool, and what are the steps involved in, and how the silk is producing from the silkworm, and what's the process is exactly, whether it is sericulture or whether it is the natural process, both are the same thing. But what happened in the case of the sericulture, that we use our own thing, like trays are there, hatching process is done in the heater, whereas in the natural process silk moth will hatch the eggs. Okay, but it's not the problem, it's just that at the end part where they just boil it so that they can get silk, and the silk moth will get die, so it's a different thing. So that's a student, we produce the silk. If they don't do this do this process, so what happened, we can't get the good quality silk, and we can't get the good silk clothes. So that's how this is the whole process which is going, like which has to be done, so that there is the production of silk. Exactly. Now we are having some questions here to solve. So the silkworm is caterpillar or a larva? So option is A, that it is caterpillar, B, it is larva, or both, or neither of them. So it's just that student, I have already told you that the silkworm is named as the two things, like when they just grow up into the white color, like when they are having white color structure, so that is the caterpillar and the larva. So we call it as both caterpillar and larva. So we can say that option third is the correct answer, that the silkworm is caterpillar as well as the larva. These two are the same thing only. So yes, or both A and B. Now, next question says, out of the following, which are the two terms related to the silk production? So these are the terms, students, which they have written here, and we have to see that among these terms, which of the terms are related to the silk production. So you can see that one hint is there, as in your exams you are not getting any hint, but right now you are having some hint. So it's just that silk production involves cultivation of mulberry leaves and rearing silkworm, and scientific name of mulberry is Morus alba. Now you have to think that what could be the words related to it. So sericulture we have already studied right now. So yes, sericulture is a process which we use for the silk production. Now the floriculture is used for the flowers, like for the maintenance and everything of the flower, so we called it as the floriculture. Now moriculture, now as they have given you that the scientific name of the mulberry is Morus alba. So mulberry leaves is used in what, in the silk production, exactly, and its scientific name is Morus alba. So this moriculture has been taken from here only. So yes, sericulture and moriculture, these two are the terms which is related to the silk production. Okay. Now if we talk about apiculture, so apiculture is a process in which we rear the honeybees. Okay, because we have to find, like we have to get the honey na, so we have to rear the honeybees. So the apiculture process related to honeybees. Now silviculture is the process of the maintaining of the forest. Okay, like forest, trees and plants, that is the silviculture. So among all of these cultures, sericulture and moriculture, these two are the terms which are related with the silk production. That is why they have given you two hint here, that the silk production involves the cultivation of mulberry leaves and the rearing of silkworm. And the scientific name of mulberry leaves is Morus alba. So moriculture comes from there. Okay, so you can see that the answer is sericulture and moriculture. Okay, students. So now at this point, your, like, this chapter is completed, everything is completed. It's just that now you have to study this chapter, you have to do the revision, you have to watch the videos carefully. And after watching the videos, if any question, any query comes to your mind, it's just that you have to write your question over the public and the private forum of the Ask IITians, and you will get the answer from the experts. And that's how we'll come, like, you will be sorted with everything in this chapter. And that's how, student, it's not a very difficult one, it's a very simple thing, I guess, exactly. And you can, like, you, when you just understand the whole cycle, it will be a very easy thing for you. You are not like, you are not going to be stuck at any point. It's just that you are just solving each and every question very fluently. So we have completed this chapter, so just try to study well. And what else? Thank you for watching this video, and yes, keep learning from us, Titans. Thank you.